This is the story of a magic trick that fooled the entire world. It's the story of a company that became the brightest star in Europe, only for everyone to realize it was actually a black hole. This is the rise and fall of Wirecard. Imagine you have a lemonade stand. Usually, you sell a cup, take $1, and put it in your pocket. Simple, right? But what if you wanted to sell lemonade to people on the other side of the world? You'd need a middleman, someone to take their digital money and make sure it gets to your bank. That middleman is what we call a payment processor. They're the plumbing of the internet. You don't see them, but if they stop working, the world stops turning. In the early 2000s, a German company called Wirecard decided they wanted to be the biggest plumber in the world. They started small, doing the dirty work that big banks were too scared to touch, things like online gambling and adult websites. It was messy, but it was profitable, very profitable. Before long, Wirecard wasn't just a small plumber anymore. They were building a skyscraper. They had a CEO named Marcus who looked like a tech genius from a movie, always in a black turtleneck, always talking about the future of digital payments. He told the world that Wirecard was going to replace physical cash forever, and people believed him. The German government believed him. The biggest investors in the world believed him. By 2018, Wirecard was worth $24 billion. They were officially more valuable than the oldest, biggest banks in Germany. They were the champions of Europe. But here is the first twist. While everyone was cheering for the champion, a group of nerds with calculators were looking at the math, and the math didn't make sense. These people were short sellers, investors who bet that a company's stock will go down. They started whispering a terrifying word: fraud. They claimed that Wirecard wasn't actually selling as much lemonade as they said they were. They claimed the skyscraper was built out of cardboard. Now, how do you fake being a billion-dollar company? It's actually easier than you think if you have a magic trick. Wirecard told everyone they were making a huge portion of their money in places like Dubai, Singapore, and the Philippines. But when people asked to see the offices in those countries, they found something strange. One multi-million-dollar office was actually just a retired sailor's house. Another was a small travel agency that didn't even have a computer. Wirecard's defense was simple. You just don't understand how high-tech we are. They used big words to hide the fact that their partners were ghosts. They told the world they were using advanced AI and complex algorithms, but in reality, they were just typing numbers into a spreadsheet and calling it profit. Here is the second twist. Every time a journalist tried to report on these ghost offices, Wirecard didn't just ignore them, they went to war. They hired private spies to follow reporters. They sued people for market manipulation. They even convinced the German government to investigate the journalists instead of investigating the company. Imagine a bully in school who steals lunch money and then convinces the principal to put the victim in detention. That was Wirecard. They were so powerful that they made the truth look like a lie. But the pressure was building. A journalist named Dan from the Financial Times spent years chasing the ghost. He found whistleblowers, people inside the company who were tired of the lying. They leaked documents showing that Wirecard was literally inventing customers out of thin air. They would report a profit from a company that had been closed for 5 years. They were claiming to move billions of dollars through partners that didn't have a single employee. To prove the doubters wrong, Wirecard finally agreed to a big, independent audit. They hired a famous accounting firm to check their homework. This was the moment of truth. If the money was real, Wirecard would become the undisputed king of tech. If it was fake, the kingdom would burn. This leads us to the third twist, the most expensive I don't know in history. The auditors started looking for the money. Specifically, they were looking for 1.9 billion euros. That's nearly $2 billion in cash that was supposed to be sitting in 2 banks in the Philippines. This money represented every bit of profit the company had claimed to make over the last few years. It was the heart of the company. The auditors called the banks in the Philippines and asked, "Hey, do you have our $2 billion? And the banks replied, "We've never heard of you. Those documents you have, they're fakes. Those signatures, they're forged. We don't have your money. Nobody has your money." Suddenly, the ghost billions were gone. Actually, they were never there to begin with. Wirecard had to admit to the world that the money likely did not exist. In an instant, the $24 billion company collapsed to zero. It was the biggest financial disaster in German history. But the story doesn't end with a bankruptcy. It ends with a disappearance. While the CEO, Marcus, was being arrested, his right-hand man, the mysterious Jan, did something straight out of a spy novel.
Jan was the man who handled the special operations. He was the one who dealt with the ghost partners in Asia. On the day the company collapsed, Jan told his colleagues he was going to the Philippines to find the missing money and clear his name. He even faked travel records to make it look like he arrived in Manila, but he never went there. Instead, he took a private jet to Belarus and then vanished into Russia. Here is the fourth twist. After he disappeared, investigators started looking into Jan's past. They didn't just find a crooked businessman. They found evidence that he might have been working with secret intelligence agencies. He had access to top-secret government documents. He had multiple passports. He was obsessed with spy gadgets. The man who helped run Europe's biggest tech company wasn't just a fraudster. He was potentially a shadow agent playing a much bigger game. The fallout was nuclear. Thousands of regular people who had put their life savings into Wirecard stock lost everything. They thought they were investing in the future, but they were actually funding a magic show. The German regulators were humiliated. The politicians who protected Wirecard were forced to explain why they chose to believe a shiny lie over a messy truth. The CEO went on trial, claiming he was just as fooled as everyone else. He blamed the missing Jan for everything. He sat in court day after day in his signature black turtleneck, looking like a ghost of the genius he used to be. But the evidence was overwhelming. You can't accidentally lose $2 billion. You can't accidentally hire spies to harass journalists. This brings us to our final twist. Even though Wirecard is gone, the plumbing it used still exists. The world of digital payments is still full of dark corners and middlemen who operate in the shadows. The Wirecard scandal wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a warning. It showed us that in the digital age, a company can grow to the size of a mountain without ever actually planting a seed. In the end, Wirecard was a story about the power of a good narrative. We want to believe in the next big thing. We want to believe that a genius in a turtleneck can change the world. We want to believe that the numbers on our screens are backed by something real. But as the people of Wirecard learned the hard way, if you build a skyscraper on the foundation of ghosts, eventually the wind is going to blow, and when it does, there won't be anyone there to catch you. The $63 billion question remains, where is Jan?
Some say he's living a life of luxury in a secret villa outside Moscow. Some say he's still working in the shadows, helping other ghosts move money across borders. But every time you tap your card to pay for a coffee or buy something online with a single click, remember the ghost billions. Remember that behind the shiny buttons and fast transactions, there is a complex world of pipes, and sometimes those pipes lead nowhere. Wirecard taught the world that the most dangerous thing in finance isn't a market crash or a bad investment. It's a lie that everyone is too afraid to question. Because when everyone is looking at the magician's right hand, nobody notices the left hand emptying the pockets of the entire front row. The curtain has closed on Wirecard, but the ghosts? They might still be out there, waiting for the next magic show to begin. The PayPal of Europe turned out to be the Enron of Germany. It was a billion-dollar lesson in human greed and the desperate need to believe in a digital miracle. As we move further into a cashless world, the story of the ghost billions serves as a permanent reminder. Trust, but verify. Because if you don't, you might just find yourself owning a piece of a skyscraper that was never really there.